Liam. He heard her voice before he saw her face. His entire body stiffened at the sound. Familiar, warm, haunting. He turned, and the sliding doors of the grocery store parted as if the universe wanted him to see every detail clearly, every consequence he had been running from. Maya stepped through the entrance holding a basket, her hair pulled back, her face softer than he remembered, and her belly unmistakably round. Very round. 8 months pregnant, maybe more. Liam froze. The bag in his hand slipped, apples rolling across the floor in every direction. His heart completely stopped and then punched back to life all at once. He stared at her belly, then her eyes, then back at her belly. His mind couldn't keep up. She hadn't just ignored his request. She hadn't just walked away from their life. She had carried their child, the child he had told her he wasn't ready for, alone. Maya didn't flinch. Didn't look nervous. Didn't look guilty. She looked like a woman who had endured everything in silence and come out stronger. There was no apology in her eyes, no hesitation in the way she shifted her basket to her other hand. Just a quiet, unbreakable resolve. Liam's voice cracked. "You're pregnant." Maya blinked slowly. "I always was." Those 3 words hit harder than anything he had prepared himself for these last 6 months. He opened his mouth, but she already turned away, pushing her cart forward. Not rushing. Not angry. Just done. Completely done. He chased after her. "Maya, wait. Please wait." She paused only because other customers were staring. She turned and looked at him the way someone looks at a stranger asking for directions. Polite, distant, uninterested. "What do you want, Liam?" Her tone wasn't sharp. It wasn't bitter. That made it worse. The lack of emotion felt like punishment. It was the way people spoke when they had already mourned you and moved on. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you say anything?" She gave a sad half-smile, not of fondness but disbelief. "Tell you what? You made yourself very clear." "I didn't mean." "You meant every word," she said, and the finality in her voice sliced straight through him. 6 months ago, he had stood in their living room pacing, frantic, overwhelmed by the positive pregnancy test she placed gently in his hand. Maya was 8 weeks along, glowing, smiling softly like she expected him to lift her into his arms. Instead, he felt the walls closing around him. His carefully planned life, career targets, travel plans, late nights out with friends, everything suddenly felt threatened. "We're not ready for this," he had said. Maya whispered, hurt already rising in her eyes. "It doesn't have to happen." He couldn't stop talking. Panic controlled every word. "We can fix this. There's still time. Fix this." Her voice had cracked, her hand instinctively covering her stomach. "Liam, this is our baby. This is a mistake," he shot back, and the room fell silent. He had wished he hadn't said it, but he doubled down instead of apologizing. Pride over love. Fear over responsibility. She stared at him as her world collapsed. Then he said the sentence that destroyed everything. "It's me or the baby, Maya." 3 days later, divorce papers appeared on the kitchen table. She didn't fight. She didn't scream. She didn't negotiate. She walked away with the same quiet dignity she now carried everywhere. Back in the grocery store, Liam stared at her, unable to find solid ground under his feet. "Is the baby?" His voice trembled. "Is she mine?" For the first time, emotion flickered across Maya's face. Not love, not rage, but grief. The kind that never really goes away. "Yes," she whispered. "She is. A girl. His daughter. A child he rejected before she even had a heartbeat strong enough to hear." He staggered back, breath knocked out of him. Maya adjusted her purse, a subtle gesture that somehow carried years of exhaustion. "I need to finish my shopping. Please don't follow me." But watching her walk away this time felt like watching his entire future disappear. And he had no one to blame but himself. If you've ever made a mistake so big you didn't know how to fix it. If you've ever wished for a do-over you don't deserve. Subscribe. Stories like this remind us what regret really feels like. He didn't follow her. He couldn't. His legs felt heavy, his chest tight. He stood in the frozen foods aisle long after she disappeared around the corner, replaying everything he had said to her 6 months ago. Every selfish word. Every dismissive gesture. Every time she cried and he turned away. When he finally made it outside, his hands were shaking too badly to hold his keys. He sat in his car, shut the door, and the weight of it all collapsed onto him at once. He pressed his forehead against the steering wheel and let out a sound he didn't recognize, a painful, broken exhale that had been building for months. How many doctor's appointments had she gone to alone? How many nights had she cried with no one there? How many times had she wondered if she made a mistake choosing motherhood over him? And through all that, she still protected him. She never told anyone he had demanded she end the pregnancy. She never ruined his reputation. She never sought revenge. She simply carried the pregnancy quietly, gracefully, without involving him. He started the car, then turned it off again. He didn't know where she lived now. Didn't know who helped her. Didn't know if she was okay. The not knowing made him feel sick. He whispered into the silence. "What have I done?" Fear couldn't excuse him. Panic couldn't justify him. He had taken the easy way out, assuming she'd eventually do what he wanted. He assumed she'd terminate the pregnancy to save the marriage. Instead, she saved herself. And their daughter. Without him. Liam closed his eyes, letting the regret burn. He didn't deserve a second chance. He knew that. But he also knew he couldn't pretend he didn't see her. Couldn't pretend he didn't know about the baby. Couldn't hide behind pride again. He had abandoned them once. That was unforgivable. But abandoning them twice, that would destroy him. People change when they hit rock bottom. People change when silence hurts more than truth. People change when they finally see the consequences of their choices walking past them in a grocery store with a swollen belly and the strength to ignore them. Liam didn't know if Maya would ever forgive him. He didn't know if his daughter would ever accept him. He didn't know if he even deserved to be part of her life. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. He was done running. And he would do whatever it took to make things right. Even if Maya never took him back. Even if she never looked at him the same. Even if his daughter never called him dad. He owed them more than apologies. He owed them action. Because the biggest mistake of his life wasn't losing Maya. It was walking away from a family he didn't realize he wanted until it was almost too late. If you've ever lost something because of pride. If you've ever wished for redemption. Subscribe. This story is only beginning. He stood frozen on the sidewalk long after she disappeared through the mall doors. Cars moved past him. People brushed by him. Yet Liam couldn't move. He felt as if someone had reached into his chest and squeezed until the air left his lungs. 6 months. 6 whole months since the divorce. 6 months of believing Maya had ended the pregnancy. 6 months of guilt, anger, sleepless nights, and the bitter taste of regret. And now this child, his child, still alive. He didn't remember climbing into his car or driving home. Everything felt like a blur. When he finally shut the door behind him, the quiet of his apartment pressed against him like a weight. The walls felt unfamiliar, almost accusing, as if they knew he had moved on too quickly, distracted himself too carelessly, convinced himself of a lie he never questioned. He sank onto the couch and dropped his face into his hands. The image of Maya's rounded belly burned into his mind. She had looked different, stronger somehow, more at peace. Her hand had rested protectively over her stomach, and the way she carried herself, she wasn't hiding. She wasn't afraid. She was simply living the life she had chosen, without him. Liam rubbed his palms over his face and exhaled shakily. There was only one question stabbing at him like a blade. Why didn't she tell him? His phone buzzed on the table, but he ignored it. He didn't want to talk to anyone. Not his mother. Not his friends. Not even his co-workers who'd been telling him for months to move on. Move on to what? A life where he had walked away from his wife and unborn child because he had assumed the worst. Because Maya had told him she wasn't ready, and he had believed she'd go through with it. A deep sense of self-loathing washed over him. If you've ever made a choice that haunts you, one that keeps replaying in your head no matter how much time passes, then you understand what Liam felt. And if you've ever wished you could go back and rewrite just one moment, just one decision, you know exactly why I'm telling you this. Someone out there needs to hear this story to avoid making the same mistake. Don't let pride cost you something priceless. And if you haven't yet, hit subscribe. This channel is all about these raw, painful truths most people hide. Liam pushed himself off the couch and paced the living room. He needed answers. He needed the truth. He grabbed his keys again. He knew exactly where Maya lived now, her sister's place across town. He had dropped her there after the divorce papers were finalized. She had stepped out of his car with the cold resignation of a woman who had finally given up fighting for something she knew she couldn't save. A memory flashed in his mind. Her shaking voice as she packed her suitcase. "I can't do this anymore, Liam. I can't keep begging you to listen to me." He had stood in the doorway, arms crossed, jaw tight. "So what, Maya? You're ending it. Just like that." "No," she whispered, eyes glistening. "You ended it the day you stopped believing me." He had scoffed then, frustrated, angry, unable to understand her tears. But now he understood everything. And it crushed him. He drove with trembling hands. Every red light felt like a punishment. Every second felt too long. By the time he pulled up outside her sister Julia's apartment, he had rehearsed 100 different things he would say, but none of them felt right. He stood at the door for a full minute before he finally knocked. The door opened slightly, the security chain still on, and Julia peeked from behind it. Her eyes widened when she saw him. "What are you doing here?" she asked sharply. I saw her today," Liam said, his voice unsteady. "I need to talk to her." Julia's expression hardened. "I don't think that's a good idea." "Please," he breathed. "I just want the truth." She hesitated, then closed the door. Liam heard the chain slide back before she opened it again and gestured him inside. The apartment smelled faintly of vanilla and warm towels. It was quiet, except for the soft hum of a washing machine in the corner. "Sit," Julia said, but he could hear the reluctance in her voice. He remained standing. "Where's Maya?" "Resting." Julia folded her arms. "Look, Liam. I don't want to get involved. What happened between you two?" "She's still pregnant," he cut in. "Julia, I thought. She told me she wasn't keeping the baby." Julia stared at him long and hard, and for a moment, Liam saw pity in her eyes. Then anger. Deep, simmering anger she had probably been holding back for months. "She never said she wasn't keeping the baby," Julia fired back. "You assumed that. You heard what you wanted to hear." Liam's heart dropped. "What?" Julia shook her head. "That night, you remember the night you two had that horrible argument, she told you she was scared. She told you she didn't know if she was ready to be a mother with the way things were between you two. She never said she'd end the pregnancy. She never planned to." Liam swallowed hard, feeling the ground slip beneath him. "Then why didn't she tell me she kept the baby?" "She tried," Julia snapped. "But every time she called, you either didn't pick up or you were cold. And when the divorce was finalized, she realized you'd already decided what she was capable of." Julia's voice softened, but her eyes remained sharp. "She didn't want to beg you to care." He felt sick. Deeply, nauseatingly sick. He lowered himself onto the couch, hands trembling uncontrollably. "Can I talk to her?" he whispered. Julia hesitated again. Then she finally nodded toward the hallway. "She's in the guest room." "But Liam, don't upset her. She doesn't need that right now." He nodded numbly and walked toward the hallway. Every step felt heavy, as though he were walking toward judgment itself. He paused outside the slightly open door. Soft light spilled from inside. Maya sat on the bed, her hands gently stroking her belly, humming something soothing to the unborn child. The sight pierced him. He knocked lightly. She looked up and froze. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Maya's voice was quiet when she finally broke the silence. "Liam, why are you here?" He stepped inside, heart pounding in his ears. "I saw you today." Her eyes flickered with pain, then resignation. "I figured you would, eventually. Why didn't you tell me?" His voice cracked. "Why didn't you tell me the baby was okay?" Maya held his gaze, hurting but unbroken. "Because you never asked." The words sliced through him. She continued, her voice steady despite the tremble in her hands. "Liam, you made up your mind long before I left. You saw me hesitate, and you decided I was the kind of woman who would walk into a clinic and erase something we created together." Tears welled in her eyes but didn't fall. "I couldn't force you to trust me." He stepped closer, desperation clawing at him. "Maya, please. I was wrong. I know that now. I thought." "You thought the worst of me," she whispered. "Always." He dropped to his knees in front of her, overwhelmed with regret. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Her breath hitched, and for a moment, he thought she would reach for him. But then she placed both hands protectively over her belly, creating a wall he no longer had the right to cross. "Sorry doesn't fix everything," she said softly. "But maybe," she added after a long pause, "it's a place to start. If you've ever wished someone had fought a little harder for you, or regretted not fighting when you should have, then you know exactly why this moment matters. And if you're still here, watching their story unfold, subscribe. Don't miss where this goes next, because the real storm is only beginning." The silence between them grew heavy, thick enough to feel like a physical barrier. Liam was still kneeling on the floor, but Maya looked away, wiping the corner of her eye with the back of her hand. She wasn't crying. She refused to cry. She had already shed enough tears for both of them. He stood slowly, unsure of where to put his hands, unsure of how close he was allowed to be. Everything felt fragile, like one wrong word could shatter whatever was left. Maya took a deep, steadying breath. "Why did you come?" "Because I needed to see you," he said honestly. "And because I need to know how to fix this." She gave a small, sad laugh. "Fix this, Liam. Some things don't get fixed. They just settle. And you learn to live around the damage." He felt the words like a punch to the chest. But he didn't argue. He had no right to. She pushed herself up from the bed, moving slowly, protecting her belly with every motion. It reminded him again that she wasn't just Maya anymore. She was Maya carrying their child. A child he should have been beside her for. A child who would one day ask questions he might not know how to answer. She walked to the window and looked outside. The soft glow from the streetlight illuminated the side of her face, casting her in a warm gold light. She looked peaceful and unbearably distant. "Maya," he said quietly, "did I really hurt you that much?" She turned her head slightly but didn't face him fully. "You hurt me in ways you never noticed. And that's what hurt the most." He swallowed hard, waiting. "You didn't listen," she continued. "You didn't try to understand. You treated every fear I had like a complaint, every tear like exaggeration, every silence like manipulation." He paused. "Do you know what it feels like to cry right in front of someone you love, and they still don't see you?" Her words tore something open inside him. "No," Liam whispered. "But I should have." She closed her eyes. "Yes, you should have." He moved closer but not too close. Just enough so she wouldn't feel trapped. "I want to be here now," he said. "I want to be part of the baby's life. And yours too. If you'll let me." That made her turn fully. Her eyes held fear. "Oh, and a question she didn't dare ask. "You want to be here now," she repeated softly, "because the guilt is finally catching up to you. Not because you love me." "I do love you," he said quickly. She shook her head, her voice barely above a whisper. "You loved the version of me that didn't challenge you. The version that didn't cry. The version that kept quiet. That's not true. Then prove it. Those two words stung. Prove it. Not with promises. Not with apologies. But with actions. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, Liam said. His voice didn't shake this time. It was steady. Certain. Maya studied him with guarded eyes. She had loved him once so deeply it hurt. And now she didn't know what to feel. Love twisted with fear. Trust tangled with exhaustion. And beneath it all, a quiet longing, one she tried hard to suffocate. A sudden knock interrupted them. Julia appeared at the door, her expression unreadable. Maya, she said gently, you should eat something. You've been resting all day. Maya nodded, grateful for the distraction, and followed her sister to the living room. Liam trailed behind but kept a respectful distance. Julia placed a plate of rice and vegetables on the small dining table. Eat. Maya reached for the chair, but a sharp twinge in her back made her wince and brace herself against the table. Liam moved instantly. Are you okay? Julia shot him a warning look, but Maya waved her hand. It's fine. Just a little back pain. Let me help, Liam offered, stepping closer. Maya hesitated, but let him pull out the chair for her. She sat, breathing slowly until the pain eased. He watched her carefully, guilt tightening in his chest. She had been going through this alone. The morning sickness, the appointments, the aches, the fears. He hadn't been there for any of it. I'm sorry, he whispered again. Maya didn't reply. She just started eating. Julia excused herself, heading down the hallway and leaving them alone again. The clink of the fork against the plate was the only sound in the room. Liam sat across from her, his eyes never leaving her. After a while Maya sighed. Stop staring. You're making me uncomfortable. Sorry. I can't stop thinking about everything you've gone through. You weren't supposed to think about me, she replied. You were supposed to live your life. But it was never the life I wanted, Liam said. Being without you felt like walking around half-finished. She looked up at him then. Really looked. Then why didn't you fight for us? I didn't know how, he admitted. I thought giving you space was what you wanted. Sometimes, she said quietly, space feels like abandonment. He swallowed hard. I'm learning. Maya nodded, but her expression remained unreadable. He reached across the table, slowly giving her time to pull away. He didn't. Maya, he said gently, I want to be present, not just physically, but emotionally. I want to show up the way you needed me to. Her eyes softened for just a second, but before she could speak, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and her posture stiffened. Liam watched her face shift from neutral to uneasy to visibly anxious. Who is it? He asked carefully. She locked her phone quickly. No one. It's just nothing. But she was lying. He could tell. Maya had never been good at hiding the truth when she felt cornered. Is someone bothering you? Liam asked. No, she said too fast. He leaned forward. Maya. Her jaw clenched. Her fingers tightened around the phone. And that reaction, so automatic and tense, sent a jolt of protective instinct through him. Is the baby's father? Her head snapped up. Don't even finish that sentence. Then tell me why you look scared. I said it's nothing, she repeated, but her voice trembled. He exhaled slowly. Maya, I'm not your enemy. Her shoulders dropped. She looked away. A long pause stretched between them. Finally she whispered, It's the landlord. His eyebrows furrowed. The landlord. She nodded. He's been making comments. Uncomfortable ones. Coming around too often. Asking when Julia isn't home. Her voice dropped even lower. Last week he asked if I needed company at night. I told Julia, and she's been trying to handle it. But it's getting weird. A cold wave rolled through Liam. He's harassing you. Please don't make it a big deal. A big deal. Liam stood abruptly. Maya, you're pregnant and someone is making you feel unsafe. She closed her eyes, ashamed. I didn't want to worry anyone. You shouldn't be dealing with that alone, he said, anger simmering under his voice. No, she whispered. I shouldn't. Liam took a breath, then took her hand. Gently this time. She didn't pull away. You're not alone anymore, he said firmly. Something in her expression cracked. Not trust, not forgiveness, but maybe the beginning of hope. And if you're following their story, if you've ever watched a relationship fall apart and wondered if it could ever be rebuilt, then don't miss what comes next. Their storm is far from over. Stay with them. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? This journey is just getting intense. Julia returned from the hallway just in time to see Liam standing over Maya protectively, his jaw tight. She paused, reading the tension in the room instantly. What happened? She asked. Maya straightened in her seat. Nothing. We were just talking. Liam's eyes flicked toward Maya, silently asking permission to explain. She gave a tiny shake of her head, barely visible, but he caught it. She wasn't ready to tell her sister the full truth about the landlord. Maybe she didn't want to cause trouble. Maybe she didn't want to feel like a burden. Maybe she didn't want to be the woman who needed saving. But Liam couldn't unhear what she'd said. The thought of someone making her feel unsafe, especially while pregnant, ignited something deep in him. He sat down again, controlling the frustration simmering beneath his skin. Julia cleared her throat. Well, if you two are done talking, I'm going to run to the store. Maya, do you need anything? Maya shook her head. I'm fine. Thank you. Julia glanced at Liam again, suspicious but silent. She grabbed her purse and stepped out, leaving the apartment unusually quiet. When the door clicked shut, Maya placed her fork down and exhaled. Please don't make this complicated. I won't, Liam replied. But I'm not letting someone harass you. It's not harassment, she insisted. It's just uncomfortable. Few comments. I can handle it. You shouldn't have to handle it. Her patience cracked. Liam, I've been handling everything for months. I got used to doing things alone. And I hate that, he said softly. She looked at him, really looked, and something in her expression deflated. Exhaustion, fear, and a vulnerability she didn't want him to see. He lowered his voice. Tell me what he said. Everything. She hesitated, fingers fidgeting with her phone. Liam let it go. I can't. She sighed and sank back in her chair. He just flirts. Comments on my appearance. Shows up without warning. Last week, he put his hand on the doorframe when I tried to close it, like he wanted to come inside. Her voice softened. I got scared. Liam's blood froze. Did he touch you? No, she said quickly. But he tried to step closer, and I shut the door before he could. A slow, dangerous anger settled into Liam's chest. Not the explosive kind. The cold kind. The kind that came when fear mixed with protectiveness. Maya, he said quietly. This man needs to be reported. She shook her head. Julia already talked to him. She told him to back off. And did he? Her silence answered for her. Liam leaned forward, his voice low but steady. I want you somewhere safe. She raised an eyebrow. And where is that? With you. He hesitated. Not because he hadn't thought about it, but because he didn't want to push her before she was ready. You can stay with me, he said finally. Just until the landlord backs off. She laughed, bitterly. You think moving in with you is the solution? Liam, we just started talking again. It's not about us, he said. It's about you and the baby. That baby, she corrected. Not ours. You walked away, remember? The words hit like a slap. He didn't flinch, but they cut all the same. Okay, he said quietly. Then let me protect you. No strings attached. Her expression softened for a moment, before hardening again. I don't know if I can trust you like that. You don't have to trust me, he replied. Just trust that I won't let anything happen to you. She stared at him for a long time. Her heartbeat echoed in her ears. She wanted safety. She wanted peace. She wanted the constant knot of fear in her stomach to disappear. But she also didn't want to depend on the man who had once made her feel so small. Let's just drop it for today, she whispered. Liam nodded, though disappointment flickered across his face. If that's what you want. She stood up and carried her plate to the sink. Liam followed her into the kitchen without being invited. Can I help? He asked. She glanced at him, a reluctant smile tugging at her lips. You haven't washed a dish in years. He gave a half smile. There's a first time for everything. She turned on the faucet and handed him the sponge. Fine. Show me. He took it from her, rolling up his sleeves. As he washed the plate, Maya watched him from the corner of her eye. Something about the sight made her chest tighten, maybe because it reminded her of the man she had married. The man who used to cook breakfast with her on lazy Sunday mornings. The man who laughed when the sink overflowed with soap bubbles. But that man had disappeared. Or maybe he had just been buried under stress, pride, and assumptions. Watching him now, she wondered, just for a moment, if he was finding his way back. I missed this, he murmured suddenly. She blinked. Missed what? Being near you. Doing normal things with you. Her throat tightened. Liam, don't start. I'm not starting anything, he said. I just never realized how empty life felt until today. She turned off the faucet sharply. That admission hit too close to the part of her heart she refused to open again. Maya, he said, stepping closer. I know I can't ask you to forgive me overnight. But I'm trying. I need you to see that. And I need time, she whispered. Time to figure out how I feel. Time to see if your change is real. Time to understand what role you're choosing to play. He nodded. Whatever time you need. I'll give it. She wasn't expecting that. Liam, the impatient one. Liam who rushed decisions. Liam who hated waiting. Offering her time willingly. Before she could respond, a loud knock thundered at the front door. Maya flinched so hard she grabbed the counter. Liam spun toward the hallway. Who the hell? The knock came again. Harder this time. Aggressive. Demanding. Maya's face drained of color. Is that him? Liam asked sharply. She didn't answer. Her breathing quickened. He moved toward her, lowering his voice. Maya, is that the landlord? She whispered. I think so. Something primal surged inside Liam. Not rage, something deeper. Something protective. Territorial. Fearless. He strode toward the door, but Maya grabbed his arm. Don't, she whispered urgently. Please. He gets worse when men confront him. Just ignore it. Not tonight, Liam said. Not while I'm here. He gently pried her fingers from his arm and walked to the door. The knocking continued. Liam unlocked the deadbolt slowly, deliberately. He cracked the door open, but didn't unhook the security chain. A man stood outside. Middle-aged. Stubble covering his jaw. Shirt unbuttoned halfway. The smell of cheap alcohol drifted in. What do you want? Liam asked coldly. The landlord's eyes narrowed. Who are you? Someone who doesn't tolerate you showing up uninvited, Liam replied. The landlord smirked. She didn't tell me she had company. Liam's expression didn't change. Leave. I need to speak to Maya, the landlord said, leaning closer. It's about the rent. Liam's jaw tightened. She pays on time. Get off her door. Maya appeared behind Liam, gripping her stomach instinctively. The landlord's gaze dropped to her belly, and he smiled. Slow, unsettling smile. That baby must be making everything harder for you, he slurred. Liam's hand slammed the door before the man could say another word. He locked it. Every bolt. Every chain. Then he turned to Maya. Pack a bag. She froze. What? You're not staying here tonight, he said. Or any night until this is handled. She stared at him, fear and relief battling in her eyes. Liam, where would I even go? He met her gaze firmly. Home. Maya didn't move. Not at first. It was as if the word home cracked something inside her, something she'd sealed shut the day Liam walked out of their marriage. She stood there, breath shallow, one hand on her belly, the other gripping the back of the chair as if it were the only thing keeping her anchored to the ground. Liam, she whispered. I can't. Yes, you can. His voice was steady, firm, but gentler than it had been all evening. You're not staying here another night. What if he comes back? She asked, her voice trembling. He won't, Liam said. Not after today. She swallowed, eyes darting to the locked door. You don't know that. Liam stepped closer. Then I'll stay. Tonight. On the couch. If that's what makes you feel safe. The words hit her harder than she expected. He wasn't saying it out of guilt this time. He wasn't saying it to manipulate her or to fix his conscience. He was saying it because he meant it. Why are you doing all this? She whispered. Because I should have protected you long before tonight, he said. And I'm done failing you. Her eyes burned. She turned away quickly, pretending to grab the edge of the table so he wouldn't see her tears. Give me 5 minutes, he added softly. Just 5 minutes to explain something. She hesitated, then nodded. Liam walked back to the living room and sat down, giving her space, giving her choice, something he rarely gave when they were married. She sat on the opposite couch, gripping a pillow to her chest. He took a breath. When you told me about the pregnancy, panic. Not because I didn't want the baby. I was scared of being like my father. Scared of being absent. Scared of being a disappointment. Maya closed her eyes. Liam. Let me finish, he said quietly. I was wrong. I was so wrong. I thought walking away was better than staying and messing everything up. I thought I'd save you from disappointment by disappearing before I could cause more pain. Her eyes opened slowly, glassy and exhausted. But watching you tonight, he continued, seeing the fear on your face when he knocked, I realized something. You didn't need me perfect. You needed me present. And I wasn't. Maya pressed her lips together, jaw trembling. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Let me be present now. Silence stretched between them. Heavy. Fragile. Finally she whispered. People don't just change overnight. I know, he said. But I'm not asking you to trust me overnight. I'm asking you to let me earn it. Maya looked down at her belly. She rubbed it gently, as if calming the baby, or herself. I don't want to depend on you and then watch you leave again. I'm not leaving. You said that before. He lowered his voice. Then let me prove it with actions. She looked at him then. Really looked. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't see the man who walked away. She saw the man who held her hand during her first ultrasound. The man who used to put his hand over her stomach at night even before the pregnancy. The man who once promised forever. But promises had shattered before. And her heart was still healing. She stood up slowly. I'll pack a bag. Just for tonight. Liam exhaled, relief flooding his features. Okay. She walked toward her room, but before she turned the corner she paused. Thank you for being here. Liam swallowed hard. I'm not going anywhere. When she disappeared into the bedroom, Liam rubbed his face with both hands. This wasn't victory. Not by a long shot. This was a fragile beginning. Chance. One he wouldn't dare take for granted. Maya returned 10 minutes later with a small duffel bag. She wore a long sweater and leggings, her hair tied in a loose braid. She looked tired, drained, but determined. You ready? Liam asked. She nodded. He took her bag and walked her out, making sure the hallway was empty. Maya locked the door with trembling hands. Let's go, he whispered. The car ride was quiet. A soft rain had begun to fall, tapping against the windshield like distant whispers. Maya rested her head against the window, watching the city blur past in streaks of light. Liam kept glancing at her, wanting to say something comforting but unsure if anything he said would feel genuine. She looked so small in the passenger seat, so breakable, so much like the woman he had sworn to protect and somehow ended up wounding the most. "You can sleep if you want," he said quietly. "I'm fine," she murmured, though he could tell she was exhausted. When they pulled into the driveway of what used to be their shared home, Maya stiffened. The porch light glowed warmly, illuminating the front steps where they used to sit on summer nights. The curtains in the living room swayed slightly, the same ones she had picked out 2 years ago. Nothing had changed. Everything had changed. "Liam," she whispered, her throat tightening. "I don't know if I can walk inside." He turned off the engine. "You don't have to. I'll get anything you need. You can stay in the car." But Maya shook her head slowly. "No. I need to face it." Liam got out and hurried to her side, opening the door and offering his hand. She hesitated, then placed her palm in his. Felt natural, familiar, and foreign all at once. When they stepped into the house, Maya breathed in sharply. The air smelled the same. Their framed honeymoon photo still hung on the wall. The couch they picked out during a holiday sale was still in the same spot. Her chest constricted painfully. "I can take the guest room," she said quickly, needing distance, needing boundaries. "Of course," Liam replied. "I'll grab you some clean sheets." As he walked upstairs, Maya sank onto the couch. She stared at the photo of the two of them on the beach, laughing, arms around each other, sun casting a golden glow over their faces. She remembered how Liam had kissed her shoulder while the camera timer counted down. How had they gone from that to this? Outside, thunder rumbled faintly. Liam returned with blankets and a pillow. "Do you want tea? Water? Anything?" She shook her head. "No, thank you." He nodded and set everything down in the guest room. When he returned, she was still staring at the photo. "You can take that down," she said quietly. "If you want." Liam looked at the photo. His jaw tightened. "I don't want to." She didn't know how to respond to that. He stepped closer. "Maya, you're safe here. I promise." She swallowed hard. "I hope so." As she stood up to walk toward the guest room, her hand brushed the edge of the doorway, and she winced, one hand immediately flying to her stomach. "Maya!" Liam rushed forward. "What's wrong?" She closed her eyes, breathing through the pain. "It's just a sharp kick. Or cramp. I'm okay." "You're sure?" he asked, hovering anxiously. She nodded, though she was pale. He placed a tentative hand on her arm. "Let me stay close tonight. Just in case." "Liam. You don't have to talk to me. You don't have to look at me. Just let me be near enough to help if you need it." Her resolve softened. "Okay." He exhaled, relieved. As she walked into the guest room, Liam lingered in the doorway, unable to pull himself away. Maya sat on the bed slowly. She watched him for a moment, then whispered, "Good night." Liam's voice was barely audible. "Good night." He stepped out, leaving the door slightly ajar, just as she preferred when she used to have trouble sleeping during storms. And as the rain intensified outside, tapping softly against the roof, both of them lay awake, separated by a hallway, connected by 1,000 memories neither of them could outrun. The storm outside had passed by morning, leaving the streets slick and shiny. Liam had barely slept, listening to every creak of the old house, every cough, every shift of weight from the guest room. He had stayed in the living room chair most of the night, unwilling to let her be alone, unwilling to give her even a moment of vulnerability without someone ready to step in. When the first rays of sunlight filtered through the curtains, Maya finally opened her eyes. The soft morning glow illuminated her face, highlighting the exhaustion that had settled there over the last 6 months. Her hand instinctively went to her belly, feeling a gentle, rolling movement. She smiled faintly, whispering, "Good morning, little one." Liam watched her from the doorway, silent, careful not to intrude. Seeing her like this, calm, nurturing, even fragile, he felt the weight of his absence in her life crash over him all at once. 6 months of absence. 6 months she had handled everything alone. He had convinced himself he was doing the right thing when he left, but watching her now, he realized how painfully wrong he had been. "I made some tea," he said softly, stepping into the room, careful to keep his distance. "You should eat something. You need strength." Maya turned to look at him, eyes still wary but softer than the night before. "Thank you," she said quietly, accepting the cup he handed her. Her hands trembled slightly as she held it, and he knew it wasn't from the chill in the room. "You've been through so much," he said carefully. "I don't think I realized how much until now." Her gaze dropped to the cup. "I survived. That's all that matters." Liam shook his head. "It's not just about surviving. You shouldn't have had to face this alone. Not the pregnancy. Not the threats. Not the fear." Her lips pressed together. "I didn't want to burden anyone. You shouldn't have to decide that," he said firmly. "And you don't have to anymore." For a long moment she just stared at him. He could see the conflict in her eyes. Relief, fear, suspicion, and a small glimmer of hope she tried to hide. Then she looked up. "You really mean it?" "I do," he said, his voice steady. "I want to help. No excuses. No disappearing. No pretending. Just showing up every day." Her hand instinctively went to her stomach again, protective, almost as if she were shielding the baby from him, from all the mistakes of the past. "And if I can't trust you?" Liam knelt slowly, lowering himself to her level. "Then I'll earn it," he said quietly. "Not with words, not with promises, but with actions. You'll see day by day that I'm here to stay." Her eyes lingered on him, searching for any hint of deception, any trace of the man who had once walked out. She found none, or at least, she convinced herself she didn't. After a long pause she nodded. "Okay. But this is only for now. Only while I see that you're serious." "I wouldn't want it any other way," he replied. Breakfast passed in relative silence. Maya ate slowly, savoring small bites, while Liam kept glancing at her, making sure she was comfortable, making sure she wasn't in pain. Every sigh, every wince, every tremor of exhaustion was a reminder of the 6 months he had missed. After breakfast, he helped her clear the dishes. His movements careful, almost reverent, as if each small act could somehow make up for lost time. She watched him, a faint smile tugging at her lips. She didn't speak, she didn't need to. The quiet intimacy of shared tasks was enough for now. As the morning wore on, Liam suggested a short walk. "Fresh air will do you good. And the baby," he added gently, "needs it too." Maya hesitated, glancing outside at the damp streets. "I don't know. Just a short one," he said. "You don't have to go far." After a long moment she agreed. She slipped on a light jacket and followed him outside. The city smelled of rain and asphalt, and the soft glow of sunlight made everything seem almost forgiving. They walked in silence, side by side, a careful distance between them, but the air was lighter than it had been in months. Finally Liam broke the silence. "I need to tell you something about the last 6 months. Something I should have said long ago." Maya stopped and turned to him, curiosity and apprehension mixing on her face. "Go on." He took a deep breath. "I've done a lot of thinking. About us. About the baby. About what I did wrong. And I realized that leaving you while you were pregnant, was the worst mistake of my life." Her eyes widened slightly. "Liam." "No," he said quickly. "Let me finish. I didn't just fail as a husband. I failed as a person. I assumed the worst of you. I abandoned the woman I loved and the child I helped create because I was afraid. And I have regretted every single day since." She pressed her lips together, trying to hold back the flood of emotions threatening to surface. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," he continued, his voice breaking. "I'm not asking for anything except the chance to be part of your life now. To be a father. To protect you. To help you carry this weight. If you'll let me." Maya's throat constricted. She wanted to scream at him, to push him away, to remind him that 6 months of silence couldn't be undone with a few words. But a small, undeniable part of her, the part that remembered the man he used to be, the part that still loved him, softened. I don't know, she whispered. I know, he said. And I'll prove it. I'll show up every day in every way I can. You won't have to ask. You won't have to beg. You'll just see it. They walked for another block in silence. The baby kicked lightly, and Maya instinctively placed her hand over her stomach. Liam mirrored her gesture, his hand hovering protectively nearby, careful not to intrude, careful not to frighten her, careful to stay present. You don't know how much that means, she said softly. I do now, he replied. As they returned to the apartment, Liam held the door open for her, his eyes never leaving her face. I'll stay, he said quietly. As long as you'll let me. Day or night. Whatever it takes. Maya's lips trembled, but she didn't look away. We'll see, she whispered. The next morning Liam woke before Maya. He stayed in the living room, watching her sleep through the slightly ajar guest room door. The soft rise and fall of her belly reminded him again. She wasn't just Maya anymore. She was a mother already, carrying the weight of their past, their mistakes, and their child all at once. And he had to be better. He had to. Maya stirred and opened her eyes slowly. Liam gave her a reassuring nod. She blinked up at him, tired and wary, but the tension in her shoulders had eased slightly overnight. You awake? He asked softly. She nodded. Barely. Breakfast, he offered. I can make something. No, she murmured, voice hoarse. I'll eat later. He hesitated, then said, You need to eat now. You're carrying a baby. You can't skip meals. She looked at him, conflicted. She wanted to argue, but the gentle firmness in his voice made her pause. For 6 months, no one had cared enough to insist she take care of herself. Not a friend. Not a family member. Not the man who helped create the life inside her. Fine, she whispered, finally relenting. Liam smiled faintly and moved into the kitchen. As he cooked, Maya watched him from the doorway. She didn't expect the small domestic gestures, the way he cracked eggs with practiced ease, the way he set the table neatly, the way he hummed softly while waiting for the water to boil, to feel comforting. But it did. More than she expected. When breakfast was ready, he brought the plate to the table. Maya sat slowly, still fragile, still guarded, but willing to take the meal. You have to promise me something, Liam said quietly, setting the plate down. She raised an eyebrow. What? Promise me you'll tell me if anything feels off. Pain, discomfort, fear, anything. Don't hide it. Her gaze fell to her hands. I've been hiding for months. Learned to deal with everything alone. And I've learned my lesson, he said gently. You don't have to be alone anymore. Not if I can help it. She studied him carefully. And what if I can't trust you yet? Then I'll earn it. Every day, he said simply. The morning passed slowly, punctuated by soft conversation, quiet laughter, and tentative trust. By noon, Maya suggested a short walk outside again. Liam agreed immediately. The fresh air felt like a salve, washing away the heavy tension that had clung to them. For a few blocks, they walked side by side, neither speaking, both feeling the significance of the moment. Then, a sharp cry from inside her belly made Maya clutch herself instinctively. Liam noticed immediately. Are you okay? I'm fine, she said quickly, though her voice betrayed her uncertainty. Let's sit, he suggested. They found a bench near a small park, the early sunlight glinting off the wet grass. Maya leaned back, letting the warmth seep into her. You really think you can make up for 6 months? She asked softly, almost to herself. Liam's gaze dropped to the ground, then back to her face. I know I can't erase the past, can't undo my mistakes, but I can be present from this moment on. I can be the father you and the baby deserve. That's all I can offer. And I'll keep offering it every day, for the rest of my life if I have to. Her eyes shimmered with tears, but she blinked rapidly, holding them back. You're asking me to trust someone who left, she said. Who ran when things got hard. I know, he admitted, his voice quiet. And I don't expect it to be easy. I just want the chance to show you I'm different. I've changed. The sincerity in his eyes made her heart ache. 6 months of silent suffering, of lonely nights, of unshared pain. She had longed for someone to stand by her. And now he was. Not with grand words, but with presence, with consistency, with action. A gentle kick from the baby made them both look down at her stomach. Maya smiled faintly, a small, shy gesture. Liam reached out, hesitant at first, and lightly placed his hand over hers. The warmth of his palm over hers sent a jolt through her, a reminder of the bond they shared, fragile but unbroken. You feel that, she whispered. Yes, he said, smiling softly. It's amazing. They sat in silence for several minutes, letting the moment settle between them. No promises, no plans, just presence. Just trust starting to grow like a fragile sapling in the wreckage of past mistakes. Eventually Maya spoke. There's something else, she said, her voice low. About the landlord. He's been getting bolder. Last night, I thought he might come back. Liam's jaw tightened. He won't. Not while I'm around. I promise you that. She nodded slowly. I know you mean it, but I've had to handle so much already. I don't want the baby to feel this stress. I get it, he said. And I'll make sure you and the baby are safe. Every step of the way. No excuses. Her shoulders slumped slightly, the weight of her worry easing just a fraction. Okay, she whispered. Liam stayed silent after that, knowing no words could undo the fear she had carried. They started walking back slowly, side by side. Each step was a small act of courage for both of them. Hers in opening herself to him again. His in proving he could be trusted. As they approached the apartment, Maya hesitated. Liam, thank you. For last night and today. I don't know how to say it properly. You don't have to, he said. Actions, not words. That's how I'll show you. She gave a small, grateful smile and turned the key in the lock. The apartment smelled faintly of rain and early morning, comforting and familiar. They stepped inside, Liam holding the door as she set down her jacket. Do you want to rest? He asked. Or should we take care of a few things like the landlord situation? She considered it. Let's handle it. I want this over with. I don't want to live in fear. Liam nodded. Good. I'll call Julia and make sure she can be on standby. And I'll talk to the landlord myself. You'll see. I won't let him bother you again. She looked at him, a flicker of hope in her eyes. Thank you. Really? He gave her a small, reassuring smile. It's my job now. To protect you. To be here. Always. And in that moment Maya realized maybe, just maybe, he meant it. She didn't know what the future held. She didn't know if trust could fully be rebuilt. But she knew that, for the first time in 6 months, she wasn't alone. The day passed slowly. Maya tried to keep herself busy, tidying the apartment, making lists, checking appointments, anything to distract herself from the knot of anxiety that had lodged deep in her chest. But no matter what she did, her thoughts kept drifting back to Liam. He was quiet most of the morning, giving her space, but always close enough to step in the second she faltered. Every glance he gave, every movement, reminded her that he had chosen to stay, to protect, to be present. And yet, a part of her was still hesitant. By mid-afternoon, Liam had made several phone calls. Julia for backup, the landlord's office to confirm he was aware of the complaints. He was thorough, precise, and calm. Maya watched from the couch, heart swelling with gratitude, but also a faint, stubborn fear. What if this was temporary? What if he walked away again when things got hard? The knock at the door shattered the silence. Maya stiffened, instincts kicking in instantly. Liam moved toward the door before she could react. It's probably Julia, he said, keeping his hand on the knob. Maya nodded, trying to steady her breathing. But when Liam cracked the door open, it wasn't Julia. It was the landlord, standing there with a smirk, soaked from the lingering rain outside, and the faint smell of alcohol on his breath. Liam didn't hesitate. "You need to leave. Now." The man laughed, a low, menacing sound. "Oh, so this is the big hero, huh? The guy who ran off for 6 months and now thinks he can protect her." Liam's jaw tightened. "I don't care what you think. Step back." Maya instinctively moved behind him. Fear coursed through her. She hadn't felt this raw in months. Her stomach clenched as she rubbed it instinctively. "I think you're forgetting who owns this building," the landlord sneered. "And who's living in it. You can't just—" Liam cut him off, voice calm but dangerous. "I don't need to argue with you. You leave her alone. You leave now. Or I call the police. You want that." The landlord's smirk faltered slightly, but only for a moment. He took a step closer, leaning toward the doorway, the smell of cheap whiskey making Liam's blood boil. Maya's hand flew to her belly instinctively. "Stop!" she shouted, panic breaking through her calm facade. "Please just go." Liam's eyes softened toward her for a split second. "I've got this," he said firmly. Then he turned back to the man. "Leave. Or I swear I will make sure you regret it." The landlord laughed again, but this time it was strained. "Oh, I like the fire. But I'm not scared of you, man. Not of you." "You should be," Liam said quietly, almost a growl now. "Because I will protect her. And if you don't get out, you'll see exactly what that means." The man hesitated, sensing something in Liam he hadn't expected. Calm but unyielding. Determined. The air between them was electric, dangerous, a collision waiting to happen. Finally, with a scoff, the landlord backed away. "This isn't over," he muttered, before disappearing down the steps into the wet street. Liam closed the door, locking it carefully, double-checking every bolt. He turned to Maya, who was pale, trembling, gripping the edge of the counter. "You're safe," he said gently, moving closer. "I promise you're safe now." She exhaled shakily, finally letting herself collapse into him. I was so scared," she whispered. "I know," he said softly. "And I should have been here 6 months ago." "No," she said, shaking her head. "It's okay. You're here now." He held her tighter, feeling the rapid beat of her heart against his chest. She felt smaller than ever, fragile and human, and yet she was carrying life. Their life. The baby's life. And he had vowed to protect it. To protect her. "I swear, Maya," he said quietly, voice raw. "No one will ever hurt you again. Not him. Not anyone. I'll be here, always." She tilted her head up to look at him, tears streaming freely now. "I don't know how to thank you." "Don't," he whispered. "Just let me show you. Every single day. That's enough." For the next hour, they sat in silence, holding each other, the tension slowly melting from their shoulders. The storm outside may have passed, but the storm of fear, regret, and tension inside them was just beginning to calm. Eventually, Maya pulled back slightly, looking at him. You really mean it?" "Yes," he said simply. "I've never been more serious in my life." A soft kick from the baby made them both glance down, their hands instinctively covering her belly together. "She likes you," Maya whispered. "I'll take that as a good sign," he said, smiling gently. She laughed faintly, the first real laugh he'd heard from her in months. "You better not mess it up," she said teasingly, though her eyes betrayed a deep, fragile hope. "I won't," he said, voice steady. "I promise." They spent the rest of the afternoon together, preparing for what would come next. Liam insisted on calling the building management and documenting everything with Julia's support. Maya watched him coordinate, strategize, and stand firm, silently acknowledging that she had underestimated just how far he would go for her. By evening, the apartment felt lighter. The air didn't carry the same weight of dread it had the night before. Maya felt safe, and for the first time in months, she allowed herself to imagine a future where fear didn't dominate her every thought. "I don't want to live in fear anymore," she admitted quietly. "You won't," Liam said softly. "Not if I can help it." She let him guide her to the couch. They sat together, shoulders touching, hands intertwined over her belly. A fragile peace settled over them, but both knew it was temporary. The real challenges were ahead: the birth, the responsibilities, the rebuilding of trust. But at least they weren't facing them apart. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. Liam had kept every promise he'd made, showing up at appointments, cooking meals, handling paperwork, and keeping the apartment and Maya safe. Every step he took reminded her that he was different now. That the man who had abandoned her 6 months ago was gone, replaced by someone who understood the weight of his mistakes. But nothing could prepare her for the day of the hospital visit, the one that would confirm just how real their little girl's arrival would be. Maya woke early, nerves coiling tight in her stomach. The baby had been restless overnight, kicking and rolling as if aware something monumental was about to happen. She tried to breathe, tried to calm herself, but the familiar flutter of fear returned. Liam was already up, moving quietly around the apartment. He didn't speak at first, just made her tea and placed it on the table. His eyes were soft, full of concern, but also a steady determination that calmed her more than words could. "You ready?" he asked gently. She nodded, gripping her stomach instinctively. "As ready as I'll ever be." The drive to the hospital was quiet, filled only with the hum of the engine and the occasional soft rustle of her jacket as she adjusted. Liam didn't attempt to fill the silence. He simply reached over and brushed a strand of hair from her face, letting his hand linger gently on her cheek. The gesture was simple, but it said more than words ever could. He was here. He wasn't leaving. At the hospital, they were guided quickly to the maternity ward. The nurse smiled at them, commenting on how ready Maya looked, how strong she seemed. Maya forced a small smile, but her grip on Liam's hand tightened as they were led to the room. "This is it," she whispered, voice trembling. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'm right here. Every step." Hours passed in a haze of contractions, beeping monitors, and the soft, encouraging voices of the medical staff. Liam refused to leave her side. He held her hand, wiped her forehead, whispered her name, reminded her to breathe. Every time the pain caused her to cry out, every time her body tensed and shook, he was there, steady, unwavering, present. "You're incredible," he said at one point, his voice low, reverent. "I've never seen anyone handle this with so much strength." Maya let out a bitter laugh between contractions. "You didn't see me at 3 a.m., crying alone, terrified, every day for 6 months. Liam flinched, guilt slicing through him, but he didn't speak. He let her words settle, letting her voice carry the weight of her pain. "Now you see me," she continued, her eyes glimmering with tears. "And I don't want to go through this alone again. You're finally here." "I am," he said simply. "I'm not going anywhere." The labor dragged on, time stretching unbearably. But Liam's presence became her anchor. When she felt weak, he reminded her to focus on the next breath. When doubt crept in, he whispered encouragements, softly but firmly. And when she felt like giving up, he simply held her hand and said, "You're doing this. You are amazing." Then, in a moment that felt suspended in both time and eternity, the cries of a newborn cut through the tense air. Maya's exhaustion nearly overwhelmed her, but when the sound reached her ears, tears streamed freely. She barely noticed Liam leaning over, his hand supporting her shoulder, his face awash with relief and awe. She's perfect," Maya whispered, voice cracking. Liam's eyes shone, lips trembling as he reached forward to touch their baby for the first time. "Sophie," he breathed, as if saying her name aloud made her existence real. Maya finally allowed herself to rest, leaning back as the nurse placed Sophie in her arms. The tiny girl's skin was soft, her breaths quick but steady, her tiny fists curling instinctively. Maya felt her chest swell with an emotion she hadn't expected. Pure, overwhelming love. Liam knelt beside the bed, his hand hovering over theirs, hesitant, respectful. "Can I?" he asked quietly. Maya nodded, tears blurring her vision. Yes, you can. Gingerly, Liam's hand brushed against the tiny warm hand of their daughter. Sophie responded instinctively, curling a small fist around his finger. He swallowed hard, emotion choking his voice. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I should have been here. Should have failed you before. I'll never fail you again. Maya watched him, her heart aching at the raw honesty in his words. She needs you now, she said softly. Not apologies. She needs you to be present. I will be, he said, eyes locked on theirs. I swear. Every day. Every moment. I'm here for both of you. Always. The rest of the morning passed in a blur. Liam sat beside Maya, watching over both mother and child with quiet reverence. He helped lift the baby carefully, learning her little rhythms, her cries, her needs. He asked questions, listened intently, and adjusted when Maya guided him. He was learning not as a guest, not as a visitor in their lives, but as a father determined to make up for lost time. By afternoon, Maya allowed herself to rest, cradling Sophie against her chest. Liam stayed close, brushing strands of hair from her forehead, speaking softly about future plans, about doctor visits, about family routines. Each word, each gesture, built trust brick by brick. At one point, he leaned over and whispered in Maya's ear, I know I can't erase the past, but I hope I can be a part of the future. Part of her life. And yours. Maya pressed her lips to the top of Emma's head. You can, she said softly. As long as you keep showing up. That's all that matters now. Liam nodded, eyes brimming with tears. I will. Promise. No excuses, no disappearing. I'm here. Fully. For the first time in months, Maya felt a fragile peace. The pain of abandonment still lingered. The shadow of the past 6 months still loomed. But in this room, with their daughter cradled between them, she allowed herself to hope. And if you've ever questioned whether people can change, whether someone can truly show up after the deepest mistakes, then this moment is proof. Redemption isn't about grand gestures. It's about consistency, presence, and the courage to face the consequences of your past. Subscribe now as Liam's promise turns into action, shaping not just a father, but a family ready to grow. The weeks following Sophie's birth were a test of every promise Liam had made. He showed up without fail, morning, noon, and evening, balancing his work schedule, learning the rhythms of parenthood, and gradually earning Maya's tentative trust. At first, Maya watched him closely, wary of any sign he might disappear, any hint of the man who had abandoned her 6 months ago. But each time Liam showed up, each time he comforted Emma when she cried in the middle of the night, each time he supported Maya without complaint, her fear began to ebb. One morning, Maya stirred as the sun filtered softly through the curtains. Liam was already awake, carefully feeding Emma her bottle. The little girl cooed in contentment, tiny hands batting gently at the air. Watching them, Maya felt a swelling in her chest she hadn't expected. You're really good at this, she whispered, her voice a mixture of awe and relief. Liam looked up, smiling, but it wasn't the teasing grin of the past. It was tender, humble, and completely sincere. I'm learning. Every day I'm learning what it means to be a father. I want to do right by both of you. Maya swallowed the lump in her throat. You've already done more than I thought possible, she admitted softly. I haven't done enough yet, he said, setting the bottle down and reaching out to hold Emma. But I will. Every day, every moment I will keep trying. I'll never stop showing up. Sophie's tiny hand found Liam's finger, curling instinctively around it. The connection was instant and pure, a silent bond forming between father and daughter. Maya felt tears prick her eyes, realizing just how much trust, forgiveness, and love had been rebuilt in such a short time. Days turned into weeks, and Liam's presence became the steady heartbeat of their little family. He attended every doctor's appointment, learned how to soothe and feed Sophie, and supported Maya in ways that spoke louder than words. He carried groceries, assembled cribs, changed diapers, and stayed up nights when the baby cried, never once grumbling, never once faltering. Maya began to notice subtle changes in him beyond the obvious. No more calls at odd hours for work that kept him away. No more excuses, no more self-centered behavior. Friends who met him remarked on the transformation. "You've changed," they'd say. And indeed he had. Not just for the sake of redemption, but because he had finally understood the weight of his responsibilities, the consequences of his choices, and the depth of love required to be a father. On Sophie's first birthday, Liam organized a small gathering at the apartment. Friends and family attended, carefully balancing warmth with respect for Maya's space. When it was time for speeches, Liam stood before everyone, holding Sophie in his arms. His eyes scanned the room, then returned to Maya. "I know I have made mistakes," he began, voice steady but heavy with emotion. "I left when I should have stayed. I abandoned Maya when she needed me most. I demanded things that were never mine to demand. But I've learned from those mistakes. I've changed and I am committed, fully, to being the father Sophie deserves. People can change, mistakes can be acknowledged, and redemption is possible if you are willing to do the work. I promise to show up every day in every way for Sophie, for Maya, and for our family." The room was quiet, the air thick with emotion. Maya felt a lump in her throat as she watched Liam's sincerity resonate in every word. She nodded, her heart forgiving, her mind allowing herself to hope. Not for their marriage, not for the past to be erased, but for the future to be built on trust, accountability, and love. Later that day, when the crowd had dispersed, Maya watched Liam gently rock Sophie in her room. The baby's tiny fingers explored his face, and he laughed softly, the sound full of joy and reverence. Maya realized that the man before her had truly transformed. He was no longer the frightened, selfish husband who had walked away. He was a man who understood responsibility, love, and the power of consistent presence. "You've done well," Maya said quietly, watching them. Liam looked up, eyes glistening. "I'm still learning," he said. "But I'll keep learning. I'll keep showing up." Maya smiled softly. "That's all anyone can ask for." As the evening drew to a close, Maya tucked Sophie into her crib, then sat beside Liam on the couch. The weight of the last year, the pain, the fear, the regret, was still there, but it was tempered now by hope. They had survived. They had endured. And they had found a way to put the pieces of their fractured lives together for the sake of the child they both loved. "I forgive you," Maya said softly, her voice carrying the calm assurance of someone who had faced the storm and emerged stronger. "Not everything, not the past, but enough. Enough for us to move forward." Liam nodded, swallowing hard. "Thank you," he whispered. "I've waited 6 months to hear that, and I'll spend the rest of my life earning it." She smiled faintly, glancing at Sophie sleeping peacefully. "It's about her now," she said. "And you being her father. That's what matters most." Liam reached out, taking both her hand in hers, placing them gently over Sophie's tiny chest. "I know," he said. "And I'll protect her. I'll teach her. I'll love her. And I'll honor you every step of the way." They sat together in quiet, the room bathed in the soft glow of the evening light. The journey hadn't been easy. It had been painful, raw, and full of moments that tested every limit of trust and forgiveness. But they had made it. They had built a new foundation. And for Sophie, they had created a family she could rely on. Sophie slept peacefully in her crib. Liam held Maya's hand. And for the first time in a long time, they both knew that the future, fragile, uncertain but filled with hope, was theirs to shape together. If you've ever made a mistake you feared was unforgivable, if you've ever been abandoned, hurt, or left alone, or if you've ever longed for someone to truly show up when it matters the most, remember this story. Redemption is possible. Change is possible. And love, even after the darkest mistakes, can be rebuilt with patience, accountability, and unwavering commitment. What would you do if you were Maya in this situation? Could you find it in your heart to let someone back into your life after they abandoned you at your most vulnerable moment? And if you were Liam, would you have had the strength to keep showing up knowing you might never fully earn back what you had lost? Share your thoughts in the comment, let's know what you think. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you reflect on forgiveness and growth, hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications so you never miss a story that reminds you that even the deepest wounds can heal, and that showing up, truly showing up, can change everything.